once you start talking, give me some time to set this up. All right? Because I need some time to set this up to put this on Instagram. All right? So don't stop talking until I come back to my seat. All right? After I do the introduction. Okay? You got it?
Yeah.
Here I am after so many years, hounded by hatred, trapped by fear. I'm in a box. I've got no place to go. If I follow my mind, I know I slaughter my own. Help me, I'm the prisoner. Won't you hear my plea? I need somebody, yeah, to listen to me. I beg you, brothers and sisters, I'm counting on you, yeah. Black babies in the womb, shackled and bound, chained by the caveman, keeps beauty down, smacked on the ass when they are squalling and wet. Greetings, peace and love, and welcome again to the NEPPC podcast. That's the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition podcast. My name is Brother Frank, and I'm with my former political prisoner.
Abdul Haq Islam.
Today's episode is the first of a several-part series. That several-part series is committed to those martyrs. This is October, is the month of martyrs. You know, we have people who sacrifice for the greater good, people like Thomas and Cara, who we're going to talk about today, people like Che Guevara, who we'll talk about next week, and a brother by the name of Simone Michelle, who we'll talk about the week after. We understand the importance of a martyr, those who made sacrifices, because they understood the bigger picture. The bigger picture is what's in the best interest of the collective as opposed to their personal interest. And the same principles that the martyr stood on is the same principles that the political prisoner stands on. So whenever we talk about something that's dealing with the struggle for national liberation, we're going to have to talk about martyrs. We're going to have to talk about political prisoners, because without those levels of sacrifices, then people don't understand the seriousness of what's at hand. So today, as we focus on our brother, our comrade Thomas and Kara, we want people to share with at least 10 people We want you to donate $1, Cash App, Sefusan Kofa, that's SEFUSANKOFA. Please let's see who's listening. And if you have some advice, we appreciate it. So Thomas Sankara, right? He was assassinated before the age of 40. He understood what was at stake. He addressed the colonial power, which was France, and he said that we're going to have to do something about that. Their liberation brought forth a new identity in himself and those who were in solidarity with the struggle for national liberation. And it's very interesting because it's called Burkina Faso, which is land of the upright man. And I think that that's very important because he and those who fought for national liberation understood as we come into our own and we come into independence, we have to have a new identity. So we have to begin by declaring who we are and declaring what our land is. So to say Burkina Faso is to say there's a new man, a new woman, a new people that's coming into being that recognizes at this point on forward, we determine what's in our best interest. Thomas Sankara, he had accepted the role of leadership, and in accepting the role of leadership, he had to address things that were not common to address, which is one was the role of women, right? Prior to his position or their national liberation, women were not given the same level of power after their national liberation, and he fought for their rights and fought to give them a better position than they had previously. And I think that that's very important. He dealt with various sectors in the nation, literacy. He dealt with the environment, and I could go into details about those specifics. But it's very important that we understand what was prior to their national liberation, um, and then what came after that, because that allows us to understand what people are fighting for when they take a position, as the brother Sankara, our comrade, did. So, Abdul Islam.
Yeah, peace and love. When we study history, there's some very, very valuable lessons. Okay, Thomas Sankara was an example of the type of integrity that can move a people forward, that can stand up and successfully resist oppression and exploitation. Um, Thomas Sankara was a young man. So when we think about youth, youth need to take a look at a young brother who came up through the ranks. We hear a lot of talk in the street about soldier activity, about violence against somebody that looks just like you, you know, and being proud of notches on your gun, killing someone of your own race. So young people need to look at a youth uh, that Thomas Sankara died when he was assassinated when he was 39 years old. And as a youth, he was a soldier. However, standing up for righteousness and justice, you know, um, led a revolutionary struggle which liberated his nation from France. A very worthy and honorable achievement. So when youth, I hear youth out in the street, young men out in the street talking about they're gonna get a sack, they're gonna get a kilo, as if this is the ultimate achievement in life. But look at what this brother did. He ran a nation, and fought very, very hard to resolve some tremendous problems that the nation had. The reversing desertification, the encroachment of the desert in Africa. This was something that was unique to Thomas Sankara. planted 10 million trees, increased the literacy rate of the people by 60%. Focus on health, education, housing, you know, had great accomplishments in all of these areas. Elevated women to very, very high places. Women had very, very high stations in his administration. He ended gentile mutilation. Forced marriages. Women were oppressed in Burkina Faso. A very, very poor nation. Very, very hard times. They the Ivory Coast used to use their workers, and paid them, very, very menial salaries. Slavery by a different name. So Thomas Sankara, had a very, very uphill struggle. Struggle against France all the time. And one thing that we see every now and then is black people talking about they French, with a type of pride, in France, or even talking about they from England, proud of their colonizer. But Thomas Sankara, was African all the way and fought for African people, fought for the benefit of his people, loved his people. And this is a type of love and integrity that needs to spread, throughout the African world and throughout the oppressed and kidnapped African nation here in America. Great, great lessons to be learned from this brother. So we need to increase revolution to make revolution. There's ideas that we pump. You understand? That we try to popularize. To give power to the idea of independence, being dependent, not depending on another nation. Thomas Sankara was instrumental in growing the natural resources of the country and not of the nation, and not depending on imports from the colonizer.
Right. One of the things that he said, and he's famous for, he said, "He who feeds you controls you."
Right.
And I think that that's very important, because we have to be determined in all levels, and for us to understand that, that's very important, because we have to ask ourselves, what are the intention of those who are trying to aid us and who don't want to see us have any independence or any opinion or point of view regarding what's in our best interest.
Yeah, those who try to control us through feeding us, and also these foreign debts that they put on us, and their interest. All this serves to control a nation, control the economy of nations, such that the economy of a nation, serves their interest and enriches those who they call it aid, but it ain't aid. It's usury. And Thomas Sankara, fought against this, stood up against it. Self-determination is something we talk about all the time. So by us being independent in our study, in our understanding of shining examples of self-determination, this becomes a very, very valuable weapon in our struggle here in the United States, and at the same time, being true in friendship, looking out for one another, being family. This is what Thomas Sankara exhibited on a national level, and other African nations, understand, was taking up this method, this understanding, this type of thinking, and this had Western nations very, very upset, and France organized different African leaders who they still had control over, to come against the type of politics, the political economy that Thomas Sankara instituted. And we talk about friends and enemies. Him being a true friend of the people. His main man, Blaise Compaoré, was instrumental in his assassination. And that is a disgrace. So our people here in this struggle here, in America, we must reject all ideas of corruption up inside our organizations, disloyalty, collaborating with the enemy. We must have a very, very great deal of disdain for these type of things. Blaise Compaoré, the French was networking for propaganda against this Thomas Sankara's regime, and Blaise Compaoré, took advantage of this and organized his assassination.
Yes, he took advantage of opportunity.
Right. And these are lessons that we must learn in history. America has a history of assassinating our leaders, Brother Malcolm, Brother George Jackson,
yes,
Chairman Fred Hampton.
right.
People who contributed very, very greatly to the struggle and to the ideas. But what happens when you kill a martyr? His ideas,
yes,
you understand, become enlightened. They grow. They become beautified.
Right, like Fred would say, you could kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill a revolution.
A revolution, right? So the blood of the martyr becomes an enemy, a weapon against the enemy. The idea of being, a true to your word. Having values and integrity. In a struggle. Keeping corruption out. Not falling for the dollar bill.
Right.
In our organizations and movements that are organized to uplift the people, to not to fall for being an American,
right.
for any type of low life activity, looking out for yourself and not being concerned with nothing but yourself. This rank individualism, the idea that we can come together collectively, you understand,
right.
and do not have to depend on an enemy that will try to organize us against the interests of our group, of our race at large.
Right. One of the things that we talked about prior to us coming on air is that the way COINTELPRO works, because it works against a specific organization nationally, is the same way that the CIA and all their allies work internationally, right? So now the assassination of Thomas Sankara is the same as the assassination of Fred Hampton.
Right, Che Guevara.
And Che Guevara, right? They find
Lumumba.
Right, exactly. So what they do in one area is the same thing that they do in another area, and that's why when we look at our political prisoners, we have to understand that this is not something that's an isolated incident. It's going on internationally.
It's a pattern.
And it's exactly, it's a pattern. And we have to tell ourselves that if we want a better world, if we want a better community, if we want a better nation, we have to understand what is going to happen. Right? There's going to be people that represent an idea that's not in the interest of those who are in power, and those who are in power are going to feel threatened and going to feel need to do something. Right? I was on a webinar, and it was said that the more effective you are, the more the aggressor will be. Right?
Correct.
And I think that has to be understood. So now you know that people like Thomas Sankara are doing the right thing. If the aggressor or the aggressor, which is the oppressor, becomes more agitated and understands that, okay, I have to move on this particular individual who represents this particular group. So the same thing that was done to Fred Hampton is the same thing that's done to Thomas Sankara. And we have to understand that our political prisoners are being held captive because of the ideas that they represent. Right? They were being effective. And the aggressor or the oppressor became aggressive. And that's why they have these extended sentences. They call them just sentences. We call them revenge sentences. They call them correctional facility, we say that they are housing units for our freedom fighters. See, we have to identify what's actually happening because that'll allow us to understand the seriousness of the situation. And that's why me and my brother Abdul Haq, my comrade in this struggle to free our political prisoners and make sure that they don't die in prison, made a commitment to go on air live, to make a commitment to do this podcast every Wednesday at noon, because we say whether it's one person or 100 people watching and sharing, it's the fact that our political prisoners have been given recognition that they deserve. They are doing time for us, so we should make time for them. That's why we're out here doing this, and we ask that you share it with at least 10 people. You donate $1 at the Cash App and do your part. Do something, because we all have various talents, and that talent need to be utilized. Because what good is it if you have a talent and you know that your people can utilize your talent, but you're keeping it to yourself and you're just criticizing what others are doing, but you're not doing anything. And I think that Thomas and Carol, his example is so important because he said that I'm going to take a position regardless of what happens, whether I go in prison or I get assassinated. I accept the outcome of my actions because my actions are correct. And if I don't do it, who will? So I think that that's what people need to know. And you being a political prisoner, what let you know that regardless of what was going to happen to you, why you had to take the position you took?
I mean, just knowing this enemy, knowing the history of, what our people have been through and what this enemy has put on our people, the death count, just knowing world history, how similar acts have been perpetuated in every nation on earth, by this enemy, and how our people here in America suffer the most wretched conditions of any people in the history of the world, So this made me know that I had to move forward. I had to be a revolutionary. I had to fight, and this kept me in the books, kept me in a program of improving myself, to making myself better and more effective in standing up against this enemy. You understand? And knowing, understand the principles of revolution and the science of revolution, knowing that we're going to win. This kept me strong, knowing that if we practice these revolutionary principles with honesty and integrity, you understand, and love for the masses, that we're going to win. And indeed, we're going to win. And this is what kept me going on.
Right.
Kept me strong.
Exactly. So while you were incarcerated, people were fighting. They were organizing
Right.
to bring you home. That lets you know.
And they were fighting the enemy on many, many fronts.
Exactly. And they understood that you made the sacrifice, so they need to sacrifice their time. I think when we talk about Thomas and Carol, we talk about those who made that ultimate sacrifice by giving up their life because they know that their nation was worth it, that we need to salute them. And the way we actually salute them sincerely and genuinely is by doing the work, by organizing. And I was watching a piece with the Black Panther Party, and Bobby Seale was talking, and he said it's not that the man outnumbers us; it's the man out-organizes us. And I thought that that was very important, and it let me know that our political prisoners can come home by the intensity in which we organize. It's not about who's doing the work, but it's the quality of work that we put forth, that intensity, and how serious are we about our political prisoners. So that's why I thank those who donated to this platform, and I'm very appreciative of that because those posters I have circulating in Baisley houses, South Jamaica houses, also in a number of houses in East New York, Brooklyn. Upcoming, I will have some circulating in Queensbridge houses, because what these posters are letting people know is the idea of a political prisoner. It says what is a political prisoner. Then it provides the definition of a political prisoner. It's very simple. And then after that, it says don't let political prisoners die in prison. right? Because we have to identify what a political prisoner is. We have to continuously go over that definition of a political prisoner so it becomes second nature. So when we're talking about political prisoners, nobody can take us off course and say, oh, those people aren't what you say they are. They're criminals. They committed a criminal act, and therefore their sentence is not just. We say that their sentence is done because the oppressor felt threatened. We say that their sentence is unjust because they represent the interests of a people that want to move forward. And their effort and their work definitely put us in that direction because it let us know that if you want things to happen, you have to be prepared to do them yourself. You got to go out there, talk to people, engage. You got to sacrifice time. You got to make the distinction between what is in dealing with entertainment or a form of escapism as opposed to activism and revolutionary methods and tactics that are going to put you in a position to acquire some power, right? Because we all get up every day, we work 9 to 5, 5 days a week, which is 40 hours. That's times away from our family. So 1/3 of our day is spent at a job, and we think about that. That's a lot of time because that's not even including the time that it prepares you to go to work, including getting yourself ready, ironing your clothes, making your meals, and then transportation. Right, so it's actually more than a third of your day. So we have to look at that, and we say, what are we getting in return besides a paycheck? Because the corporations are fighting for their interests, and they don't care what's being done to us, and we give so much of our time. And that brings me back to Thomas and Kara. Thomas and Kara were telling other nations, right? He said he was challenging their foreign debt, right? Don't pay them back. You know what I mean?
Right.
We have the resources. We know who we are. We know what they're doing to us. And let's organize. Let's have some level of solidarity. Like, they're not going to penalize all of us if we all don't pay.
Right? What are they going to do? Put 2 billion people in jail?
Exactly. Or send their military to all these areas in Africa. And, that's going to exhaust their military forces. And that's going to put them in a vulnerable position. And I think that we have to be clear about that, and we should understand what that means to us, common people, working class people, regarding how we look at ourselves and our position of power. And the same thing goes for the struggle to free our political prisoners, the struggle to not let them die in prison. How intense are you organizing, right? So you go online, change.org. They have online petitions, and these online petitions can be signed and shared with a number of people. So now you have thousands of people signing these petitions. So if you have 1,000 of people signing the petition, now those who are in position of power to sign the release of a political prisoner being given a compassionate release, they're under pressure because they know that they want that vote. They want these people to recognize them as being for justice or a just person. They have to make a decision because now their credibility is on the line. And I think that we identifying that, knowing our power, need to utilize that. I think what does a community need to know about their position regarding freeing our political prisoners?
Well, brother, you just said it a minute ago. The people need to know their power. Everything that we've done, everything that we've accomplished, has been because of the tremendous power of people to put pressure on the government. You understand? There's been very many examples in history of people power being successful. And an enemy who's outnumbered vastly, like we outnumber our enemy, will have to cave in to the political pressure of the people, fueled by an understanding, by a political education, by a love of self. You understand? A love of self demands that one fights, to free those who fought for us. It's kind of ironic that when the enemy kills our martyrs, that they bring our martyrs to life, and give them perpetual life. You understand? the fight that the martyrs had. The people take up that fight by studying that history. You understand? And the respect they have for the people who fought for them. Comrade George, Brother Malcolm, Chairman Fred, example here in America. Their ideas, you understand, become multiplied in the being of the masses who study, you understand, this phenomenon, So the enemy, cannot win, you understand, against the power of the people. And the power of the people is multiplied exponentially, you understand, by understanding the fighting spirit of those who came before us and taking that up, you understand, and bringing that into their being, the total fearlessness that revolutionaries had, the honesty, the integrity. For example, we talk about the integrity of Thomas Sankara just now.
Yes.
The uncompromising, cannot be bought.
Right.
Cannot
stood on principle.
Stood on principle. That we have a treasure. We have a historical treasure. You understand? To enrich our people. You understand? To make our people strong. And so we're saying that we must tell this to our youth. You understand? Our youth might have ways that they think that is going to make them powerful, but we have a way that can make our people powerful, make us powerful. To uplift the whole race. Something glorious, something magnificent and magnanimous. You understand? To stand up against a vicious enemy. You understand? Who totally heartless. So we must come together, organize, and share these ideas, share these values, share these ideals. You understand? And these things are seeds that grow into a mighty, like the brother planted 10 million trees. You understand? To reverse the desert in Africa. To grow something beautiful in our race, in our people. You understand? To develop black power in our lifetime.
Absolutely. Black power is self-determination. Black power is the right for us to exist, and we decide how we will exist. But that has to be done by organized effort. We decide if our political prisoners will die in prison or not, and that has to be decided by the method and the tactics that we use to bring them home. Sundiata Akoli was brought home. Jalil Abdul King was brought home. Dave Gilbert, he was brought home. And, Russell Monroe Schultz, he was brought home. They did not die in prison. And that was not because the state wanted to bring them home, but the people were resilient in fighting to bring them home. Unfortunately, it takes a number of years for that to happen because I guess it's because of the number of people or the intensity in which we organize to bring our political prisoners home is done. And I think when that intensity is strong enough, then it gets done in a way or at a time that we want it done. Because all change happens by people's organized effort. So I think that we said enough on this episode. We invite you to participate with us next week, the same time. We'll be talking about Che Guevara. Talk to your family about Thomas Sankara, his sacrifices, his commitment, his work.
He was called the Che of Africa.
Yes, and he was called the Che of Africa.
Yes. Right.
So talk to your family about him. Have your children learn about him and learn about what it means to stand on principles. So again, share with 10 people. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's NEPPC, and continue to support our platform, which is exclusive to political prisoners. We talk about what's going on at the time, and we're related to political prisoners because our political prisoners are related to all our issues all of the time. So, brother, your closing remarks?
Yeah, I mean, how are we gonna let political prisoners die in prison? Come on, y'all. Let's get up. Let's put on the boxing gloves or take off the boxing gloves. You want to put it that way. And rumble. Increase this fight. build the power of the people. You understand? Just like Thompson cared for what was righteousness, all that fire in us, that energy in us, that militancy, directed towards something real. What's the call? Free them all.
So as we always do, we're going to close off with closing remarks from our brother, Killer Mike.
She's like, Michael, it is time that you guys organize a fund to set aside to help people who sacrifice for our freedom. Meaning, every time something happens, I hear this. Why don't the gang bangers jump up and do something for us? Why don't you kill them and kill each other? And I say to myself, when is the last time you sent money to Assata Shakur? When is the last time you sent money to Matulu Shakur? When is the last time you sent money to Mumia Abu Jamal, or Larry Hoover, or Jeff Ford, or Leonard Peltier? When is the last time you have made it your business to send money to a revolutionary or a hoodlum that has helped us? And until we start to do that, how can we ask these young men to thing is to see 1 million people from the culture dedicate $10 a month. That's $10 million a month, $120 million a year toward taking care of civil rights leaders who have worked on our behalf and are elderly now and don't have to take care of themselves, like Rosa Parks, whose rent was paid by the owner of Little Caesars Pizza. We should have had a fund to make sure that she never had to worry about that again in her life. We should have a fund that makes sure money makes it to Assata Shakur, and Matulu Shakur has legal representation and food, and Leonard Peltier, who has diabetes in jail, can get insulin and taken care of. And until we start doing it, $10 a month is about what you pay on a couple fast food restaurant visits. So if 1 million of us do that for the rest of our life, look at how well we'll be taking care of the people that we're asking to sacrifice on our behalf.
I agree. And recently